Hey guys, I'm RozaldVaneGAME, and welcome back to another episode of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Where we last left off was we basically finished up a majority of the additional side quests of this additional extra content update. A kind of treasure hunt is where we're still at. We apparently need to go through the east here for the last treasure hunt thing. Apparently we just need to find a dock along the east. Follow along the water to find a dock. That we just need to find where it has to have a shark, because it's resembling the guy who killed himself by accident by jumping into the water, or dropping into the water by accident, and then becoming sort of fish food.
How can I help you?
Sell. Yes. I'm not gonna sell that outfit. If I did, I would have been a little bit angry. Oh yeah, they didn't sell obsidian, that's why I couldn't upgrade the rest of the stuff. Ugh. Yeah, they're not selling the obsidian.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, I had to stick with all the weapon and gears I had from, like, a while ago that I couldn't, like, upgrade. I mean, I'm already having to have enough leathers and wood and stuff like that, but it's just, I don't have any obsidian, which kind of sucks a lot. Anyways, let's see what, but yeah, anyways, this potentially might be the last episode. Gotta also warn about that, because we're gonna potentially close out this series with this last few, like, side quests or main quest things here. But yeah, otherwise that's pretty much the thought process for this episode. I'm wondering if I can find this stupid shark anytime soon, because it'd be annoying as heck. Sheesh. That scared me a little bit. Is there a shark here? No? Shark here? No. Sheesh. You're telling me that I'm doing this, like, constantly until I find a shark, really? This is the worst. Maybe here? It is!
Testicles, our fallen champion. And tasty meal for the sharks. I finished Herodotus and Barnabas' hunt, but didn't find the treasure. I should look one more time.
Alright. So we're getting warmer, it seems like it says. Okay, let's see what this is. So there is one last final part to it, apparently, for this quest. Where is it? What is it? Retrieve the reward from the chest. The reward is located in the shores of Deprani. Deprani? I don't know. It is east of the southern watchtower, and it's located to the beach near the vacation house. Okay, so that's not that far, actually, on the fast travel section. Shores of Deprani. I think it's no, not this one. Watchtower. And it would be this somewhere near here, I guess. Let's just get to it, I guess. Let's get to the watchtower anyways. Yeah, so we'll close this out, and then we'll get to the ending of this content update that is the last main quest of it. And then I'll talk over some credits. This potentially might be a very lengthy, or maybe a very short, a pretty short video, or an average episode length. I don't know, depending on how much I have to say about the Assassin's Creed Odyssey experience here. But, oh wait, no, wait. There's the clues. East of that, but near the vacation house at the beach. So where's the vacation house? I can't tell where's the vacation house. Okay, first things first, let's look for the vacation house. Is that it? So then it would be, yeah, that's the vacation house. Okay, so let's follow the vacation house first, and then take a look at what the hell. Really? There's a dead guy in the middle of nowhere there. And then we'll take a look at the beach, at the area. I mean, it's convenient because, like, literally the treasure's nearby here. That's, like, near the ending quest for this particular area, so yeah, otherwise it's like, it's funny to me that they just put this treasure nearby here all this time. Nothing here. Nothing there. Well, I mean, they say beach, but they're so vague as with beach. Like, this is super vague. Oh! Where is it? Ah, there you are. Thank goodness I found it. Wasn't thinking I would find it, but good enough. Wood out of nowhere there. I wonder what's gonna happen. I don't think there's gonna be a cutscene, is there? We're just gonna pick up the chest and be done, I bet. Wow. Wait. If it was sitting out here like this all this time, then I could have gotten this very early, wouldn't I? Like, wouldn't I have gotten this before I even finished this quest?
Thanks for the journey to the past, Herodotus and Barnabas.
Oh. The Raven response is what we get for it. Wow, that's a lot of XP still. Still, I can't upgrade though, which is disappointing for me. I can't upgrade my own abilities or anything. Alright, cool. Let's finish up this main quest. Let's finish it up and see where it takes us. And if it takes us to another additional set of things, then this is not the ending at all. But if it is going to end the episode or end the game itself here, then I will be probably for sure going to just call it.
Well, you can't say I wasn't successful in getting Cassandra out of her funk.
Out of my funk, but into a lot more trouble.
True.
Oops. Did I already apologize for that?
Coming to Corfu, I had no inkling that we would get caught up in a tale of legendary treasure.
They say life gets dull without surprises.
I
Now,
guess.
that's a reason to cheers.
Thinking her abilities are all gone.
And to you, Icaros.
Yes, we all have but one life to lead. We have to do the most with it.
One life? Speak for yourself.
Oof.
You're right,
no.
Barnabas. Heroes like Cassandra will live on in the stories and legends of their triumphs. They live forever.
Listen, I want you two to know I'll be leaving soon. To travel across waters I've never dreamed of crossing. And I don't know when I'll be back.
Hmm?
You're leaving? Again? Where? Why?
Oh, this is actually the tie-in with the Valhalla stuff, isn't it? I fear that this is what is happening, because it's like, I understand that they're trying to excuse themselves to say, Cassandra made it to Valhalla somehow, and she's gonna tell us why when she gets over there. We don't get to control it, but we get to see it. I'll tell them.
I'll go wherever I'm needed in the world. I can't run from my responsibilities.
Yeah.
Someone, I mean, something, tells me my journey's not over yet.
We couldn't possibly keep you for ourselves. Though you'll be everywhere in my writings, that's for certain.
I guess.
I'm honored. Maybe you could give me one of your manuscripts, Herodotus.
What?
I'm sure even those from far-off lands would love to read it.
Maybe.
Don't trouble yourself. These lands will do for now. But if you're serious, a storyteller is always prepared. Take it. But feel no need to share it. It's for you.
I have something for you too.
What? Oh? She's giving up her spear?
No. The spear.
You knew what it was the moment you met me. But I've outgrown it. It's yours now.
Yeah, because I forgot this is part of the story where she
Careful.
does give that up.
It's still sharp.
I'll cherish it forever.
Yeah, because it's probably dull for her.
Well, though I'm not one to refuse a gift, the gift of friendship is enough for me.
You only want friendship? Meh. I guess I'll need to find another second-in-command for my trip.
Me? Traveling the world? With you?
If you'll have me as your captain.
I
Still.
don't know how much longer these old bones can hoist a sail. But I'll go as far as I can. The Adrestia is yours.
What will be your first stop, Cassandra?
I don't know. What I do know is that I need a new weapon.
What?
Egypt has always fascinated me.
Interesting.
One of my favorite places. Let me tell you one of my best stories.
Please do not tell me it's Origins related. Oh, there's music playing. Oh god, I hope it's not copyrighted music. No, please, no, not copyrighted music. But if it's a credits, I'm surprised. It is! I was right. I was like, why is there credits playing? It's, okay. Here's the first thing I gotta say. That cutscene, interesting cutscene with the camera direction and stuff, that's really interesting that they try to put so much effort for an ending scene. 2, why the hell is the credits showing up now? Like, the credits never showed up for the main game, I think. I don't remember seeing it. But now there's the credits for this goddamn thing here. Oh my goodness. Jeez. Come on, dude. Game? Really? Really? Alright. Alright. First things first, I need to take a small little break to clear my nose. My sinuses is starting to overwhelm me a little bit. But I'll get right back to it in a quick second. Let me even pause this for this reason, but let me clear my nose and then I'll come back and then we'll talk a lot about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I want to call it the Ultimate Edition because I actually did purchase the Ultimate Edition for what I'm playing here, and I'll talk more about what I feel, what I think, what I've been through, and what I felt was good and bad, and give my recommendation and stuff like that, so I'll be right back really quick. Alright, I am back. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's resume it. Anyways, yeah, so I want to start off by saying that would you consider the content updated ending the real ending to this game? I guess you could say it in a sorts, because ultimately Cassandra does give up her spear dagger thing, and then she does end up giving it to Herodotus. I think before this content update showed up, excuse me, there was some, I forgot, I remember looking at a wiki and randomly reading Herodotus's like sort of like summary page a little bit, and I did recognize that he does receive her blade later on, or her spear later on, but I didn't know why, and now at this point with this content update, it kind of revealed that reason why it happened. It's because she found out that she lost all the power to it, which kind of sucks that the whole part of that was just to reveal the fact that you kind of lose out all your abilities, and that's why Cassandra no longer does the exact same things she probably previously did, which is like throwing a spear and stuff. I'm hoping that if we go into Valhalla like far in the future, it won't be really like close by this time around. I'm wondering if she ever throws a spear out of nowhere in the fight, I will be very devastated, because that means that you broke plot, like you broke your narrative by saying that she gave up a thing, but randomly she has a thing for it. It's like, come on, don't do that, please. Please don't do that. But the point is that, yeah, Herodotus ends up carrying on her spear, but that spear ends up being like a sort of like artifact to whatever it is with no power or anything. So it makes sense that that's what that is, where she has to give it up. But it's also interesting that she chose to go to Egypt. So I'm now wondering if we've actually have seen Cassandra at Egypt in Origins, but I doubt it, because it's so weirdly written and so late to the story that it just makes no sense to me a little bit. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe we might have seen her, but I doubt it entirely for sure. But that's pretty much what I think that sort of ending of that part is supposedly trying to call out, is just like, hey, we're going to Origins, because Origins technically is actually a sequel to Odyssey in a sense, which is a weird thing, because I now realize that this game exists before Odyssey, or before Origins. Odyssey is supposedly before Origins, and then Origins would be probably after, it would be followed up with Valhalla afterwards. Maybe. I might be wrong. But I think that's why they're trying to close the gap between Cassandra leaving Greece to go elsewhere, and that elsewhere is most likely Valhalla's location, which is far west Europe areas. Yeah, so let's get into the nitty gritty of what I think about this game of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. First and foremost, at the very beginning, I want to say I really, really enjoyed the game. I really liked the game a lot at the beginning. It was bare bones, like simple like Odyssey or like as simple as Origins was. It was like, oh, okay, the DNA formula is similar to Assassin's Creed Origins, and I was like, cool, awesome, I get to have whatever. But then slowly I remembered that like there was points in time where when you start like leveling up, getting more powerful, you realize you become more of a god. So when you jump far off, you can like jump really high places and still land without dying, which Origins technically doesn't have. So it's like it was such a big shift of abilities and stuff like that I became really over reliant with the abilities that we unlock throughout this game. So I think that a lot of the super power ability things, or you call the Isu tech abilities, I guess I would call them, all these abilities really made me feel too inclined to think that this is less of a realistic historical kind of game. Which, I mean, past Assassin's Creed have done that a little bit, but it's like they were really focused on having the object play the role, not so much as the person, the character itself carrying that role. Like, you don't see Ezio Auditore da Firenze, like, being the one who just walks around and wields some blinding light of magic of some sort from something. I mean, he did use the apple, but that's only reliance of the apple, and he doesn't just, like, not fall to his death if he misses his landing or something. Like, he still is human. But in this game, it just really disregards a lot of the Assassin's Creed, like, idea and just ditch that whole thing just to make it a realistically superhuman, non-human kind of game that just makes it kind of a little bit not Assassin's Creedy, I would say. It becomes a real big diverge from Assassin's Creed. Like, I already said this before in Origins, and I think I said it again in this game as well. This is no longer Assassin's Creed. I wish that Ubisoft understood that Assassin's Creed is... It's long gone. The name is great, but it's long gone. Like, the name is recognizable, unfortunately. But the game... The feeling of being an assassin is all gone. Like, it's or that if not gone, it's reduced to a size of super duper, like, small chunk. It's become more like a Warrior's Creed. I'd rather call it the Warrior's Creed than the Assassin's Creed, because there's no more assassins to be dealt with. I mean, you can still play this game with stealth. You can still play this game with the sort of assassin-y, like, thing, but you lost all that to make a more fun and more sandboxy game. And Assassin's Creed in the past wasn't sandboxy. It was fun to do stealth and stuff like that. Like, that was the point of it, is stealth and historical involvement in a non-outward look. But here it's like we get some of that, but a lot of it has been blinded by the whole Assassin's plotline, and it got a little annoying, or has been plotted by the cultist plotline, which I like. I will say this much: the cultist and mercenary systems I like a lot, but I dislike the mercenaries, like, walking around and then you having to get hit by the bounty, and then randomly they're showing up at the worst time for you a lot of the times, and that could happen a lot. And that's the one thing I really dislike about the mercenary system, bringing it up with that. But otherwise, I'd say that the cultists and the mercenary systems are great. I like them because they are pushing you to get involved with, like, enemies and stuff like that. Like, there's some more sort of, like, chase them after yourself kind of thing, and having some cool, like, gate stuff that you need to meet, like gatekeeping stuff that you need to beat off. Like, you have to, like, you have to have an item, you need to have certain information, you gotta have so on and so forth. And, like, Origins did a little bit of that, but then Odyssey fully blew it up, which was great, and I like that. But the problem with that, again, is, like, historical. Where's the historical context that I really feel inclined to connect with? Like, I don't even know if any of the cultists, or maybe I don't think half the cultists are even real characters in part of history that people would remember or know about. I just don't even know. That's the problem. I feel like there's this sort of loss in connections with the historical beings and stuff like that. Like the only people I really cared about was the philosophers, because Greece was filled with philosophy, with Socrates and Pericles, I think was his name. I can't remember, the leader of the Athens. And then Sparta, Leonidas. I think it was Leonidas. Yeah, like Cassandra's like grandfather, basically. It's like, I don't know. It just feels kind of like it lost a lot of the historical touch right after a certain point. It just broke off and just became whatever it's trying to do, and then like try to tie in a bunch of random things to make it feel authentic to a Greek adventure sort of thing, with a Persian fight against a little bit here and there. But I think that the main game in general was just such a long journey because of all the side quests, of course. I did all the side quests, or most of the side quests. I didn't do the treasure chests or get the leadership's sort of like the I forgot what they're called, the sort of like scroll information that they have when you kill the leadership, the Polemarch side quest stuff. Like I didn't do all of those, but I did a majority of them. And yeah, I still haven't seen all the city points in all of the Greece of Greece, because I felt like that would take a lot more time to just explore everything and clear them all out at the very same time. But I think this game does also have a good point to having a lot of content. Like, you can see it as a good thing, and you can also see it a really bad thing. And I think that it's a good thing because it keeps you in the game. If you're not having a lot of games to play, this game will keep you for a long, long time. You can play this for about a year, maybe 2. If you wisely play for 2 hours a day or something like that, it could keep you down for 2 years or something like that. It's enough content, basically, for a couple of years. If you take your time playing this game and trying to get all the collectibles, all the clear outs, all the side quests, DLCs as well included, and content update stuff, and maybe even some of the random ass things that comes out of nowhere, like the random quest line that could come up out of nowhere, which I think there are random quests, like Origins had it, where you can just dive into it and just fight some things and then move on with your day. And I think that it's there for that reason, for to just let you do whatever you like, and like that again, like that sandbox fulfillment is there in this game. And I think that's one of the good things about it. But the bad thing about this content is for those who actually don't have that much time and who don't want to spend their whole life playing just one game forever. I feel like I did go through this a lot. I played this for about... I started this series in like 2018, I think. 2019. It's been 4 years, or 3 to 4 years. It's bad because it's keeping me here for like hostage. It's like holding me hostage for just trying to complete the necessary contents that I wanted to complete personally. I played for about 285 episodes. This is the 285th episode. Near 300 episodes. And I can't fathom the fact that Valhalla will be worse, because I heard that Valhalla was actually more grindy, more filled with content that was almost unnecessary to the game, and that it's just not designed properly to a point where it helps the player, get to their point of focus of this game. And I've seen some reviews, specifically SkillUp's review about this game, Valhalla, and it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna even have the guts. I don't have the courage to even go into that right now. I think that's why I say like a long time from now is like the biggest keyword for me, because I don't think I'm gonna want to spend another 5 years, 300 plus episodes on another game that's Assassin's Creed, because there's nothing special to change the thing. That's the one thing I have a problem with this game, is that once you get to a certain point in this game, nothing changes. Like, all the things remain relatively similar in experience to your work that you've made. So like, as soon as you get to like level, let's say 25, maybe 30, you're at a point where you're like, I don't have anything else I want to do anymore. Like I don't have anything to make me feel like my gameplay will change, kind of feeling. because all your experiences: ride a horse, walk around, sail a boat, kill some folks, talking to some people, riding your ship and fighting ships. Like, there's nothing, like, it's not enough to make me feel like there's gonna be something interesting anymore. Like, the boats fights were very little, which is fine, but I think that Assassin's Creed 4 did it the best still. Like, they made it more interesting because they added the tools or the weaponry stuff, like, pretty much, like, throughout the game. Like, they're trying to layer out that sort of, like, experience for you. But here, it's like they don't do that. They just try to force you into these things, and then randomly, suddenly, one of the DLCs, the Legacy of the First Blade, gives you a new tool of fighting with your ship. And I'm like, why are you putting it in here? Why don't you put it in the main game, where the ship battle would be a little bit more interesting? And like it feels like the ship became a secondary mechanic, and even though you upgraded a lot of it, it became useless right after First Blade of Legacy. Like, the Legacy of the First Blade onwards, once you're done with the Legacy of the First Blade, it becomes useless. You wasted all your money, you wasted all your time. Money as in drachmae, like the in-game currency. Just, like, you wasted all that time just trying to do the thing, thinking that it would be useful for you all the way through to the end, but no. It stops right after the Legacy of the First Blade, and so it's like such a waste of a time to leave that ship mechanic as secondary up until that point. Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get why they do these things and not think about why they place these things in the weirdest places. I mean, I do like the Legacy of the First Blade. I think I already talked about what I thought about Legacy of First Blade. I like that in the sense that it gives you more things, gives you more of a story, gives you a connection to Assassin's Creed Origins. I keep mixing the two. Sorry about that. Origins and Odyssey, both O's with their name, just really, really ridiculous. But anyways, ties Odyssey to Origins really well, and I like that. And it's like really interesting to see how things played out that way to bring up Assassin's Creed Origins to some degree. But I don't know how Valhalla is going to connect to all of this, because I have no feelings about how that all plays out similarly to these two experiences, besides the fact that Cassandra probably just bumps into the assassin in that game, and that's it. I bet it's just that. Or one of the Apple of Edens that Cassandra picked up ended up landing in that space, and then that person discovered it, and then something stupid happens or something. I don't know. Whatever it is, I just don't care for it as much right now. I just think that, like, Odyssey did well at least to connect to some stuff, but then flubs up everything else that just feels kind of, like, interesting in itself, I guess. Like, I mean, I guess it didn't flub up everything within itself. It just flubs up after a certain point. That's all I could say. Like, there should be a cutoff point, but Ubisoft said no. I bet you anything Ubisoft probably said, well, we like all this thing, but we need to make money. We need to make more content, please. And I'm just like, why? Why? The Legacy of the First Blade, the Fate of Atlantis DLC, I felt like they were great DLCs, but they came too short of the experience after you played the main game a lot. Like, it felt very weirdly placed in a way, I feel like. I don't know, there's a weird, strange feeling for me that... Yeah, because when you finish the main game, you go right into First Blade, the Legacy of the First Blade, depending on how you play, I guess. You can play the Legacy of the First Blade first, or you can play the Poseidon, the Fate of Atlantis first. But I recommend doing First Blade, because First Blade would be easier for you to kind of get into it, because it still remains in the main game world. And then you can level up a little bit more, so that you can pad out the problems that you might bump into for difficulty scale in Fate of Atlantis, I think. So I think that Fate of Atlantis should always be like the semi-last parts of the stuff that you play through before you go into whatever experiences you need to go into. But yeah, I think that I don't know, the placements of the DLCs were fine, I guess, but at the same time, I felt like some of the important pieces in those two DLCs really could have been helpful in the main game, like changing the experience a little bit. Like, some of the mechanics of, like, oh, you need to get this sort of armor to get into the space was a nice thing in Fate of Atlantis, but I wish there was more of that to just kind of let you kind of feel inclined to do something different. But it's annoying because you have to swap out the gear like constantly, which they didn't have a quick swap in gear loadout. So I think that would have been a discouragement. But I mean, it would have been an encouragement if it was just a single item that you just pick up, and then you find your way through these kind of gates, and you just find certain keys to open up these gates or something. I think that those kind of small things could have been nice. But I also think one of the biggest thing I talked about, I forgot which episode it was. I think it was during the Legacy of the First Blade, is why doesn't these quests become more complicatedly cool? Like, why can't these quests become more dynamic in a way that helps make the story more complex and interesting? Because I know that the story could be like, I can kill... Okay, the most simplistic thing you can come up with the endings, you can kill Alexios and not save him. Or you can save him, which I did, and spare him, and he would just leave the cultists altogether. Like, those are like two obvious endings, and then you got like two other endings, which is like you can kill Nicholas's like stepson or whatever it is. I forgot the guy's name already. It's been so long. Like that guy who tries to kill you at the very beginning, or the guy that you met at the near beginning, and then he tries to kill you later on down the line. You can kill him, or you don't have to kill him. Like, you get a choice behind that. Like, those kind of things don't really influence much because it felt so two-dimensional, but doesn't really lead to anything cool. Like, there's no like, it's not as excuse me, it's not Witcher 3 where it's like when I played Witcher 3, there was a quest that had about maybe 5-7 different endings depending on where you were, depending on what choice you made, what you chose to fight and kill, and also how do you do it. Like, it felt like those kind of things could have magically worked if this game chose to do that a lot, but it would take a lot of time to balance it all out, but also make it all worthwhile, or maybe less worthwhile depending on how you feel as a player. And I felt like they could have taken more risks down that road of making multiple endings of a story quest than it is with trying to figure out side quests or additional content or additional stuff. I think that if they reduce their size of side quests throughout the whole world and having it where they intelligently place certain encounters based on your stories, then I think that it would have helped with spreading the game a little bit more further with more complexity that people would probably enjoy it a bit more. I know there's a downside where people can't see all the branches and stuff like that, and that's fair with Witcher 3 as well. I think Witcher 3 had that problem as well, where I don't see where would have played out, and why would I want to rewind to just get to that point of good stuff if I'm not aware of it too well. But I think that's why I think it's trying to chase after that. Like, I think Odyssey was chasing, Origins actually specifically started chasing after the Witcher 3 formula, and this was doing the same exact thing, but just upping that ante. Like, it's just literally trying to upgrade that sort of Origins feel by putting a more superhuman feel to it, which Witcher 3, literally, Geralt is not human. He's not superhuman. He's just... Or he's a semi-superhuman, where he's not, like, he's not vulnerable to dying when falling, but he's, like, he still has magic, stuff like that. And this game kind of has that, where there's magic and stuff. Excuse me. My throat's giving out because there's a lot of talking for this. But otherwise, I think that, yeah, that's what I think that part is for that, for sure. I want to say that Assassin's Creed Odyssey overall is a good game, but there's a lot of key problems, and it doesn't feel like they learned to change up some stuff, or they did learn to change up some stuff, but they learned to change up some stuff too late. And I think that this game could have done better if it stopped itself, started reevaluating some stuff, and then saying, like, okay, we need to cut this, we need to move this, we need to move some time and effort into making something better. But they didn't do that, and they were forced to just do other things constantly until they fulfill the world to a less empty space. I think it's to fulfill the open world space to be less empty, but it made it more dull. It made every story and character and quest line very dull. And I think that's the problem, is that they're trading off for some of the most shallow stuff versus having to have very great depth of like stuff. Like if they had great depth of story, I think this game would have been far better performed. I don't mind if they kept the whole superhuman ability thing and just keep up with like really deep stories versus having a very expansive open world, bigger than, like, I think it's 2 times bigger than Origins. I have a feeling that's what it is that it's 2 times bigger than Origins, and that's why they had to fulfill it twice the amount of content that they need to fulfill this whole game. And I think that's definitely one of those big problems that they had to deal with for this game throughout the whole campaign and throughout the whole DLC as well. Let me get down to the nitty-gritties of system, actually. I actually forgot to mention this. The ability stuff are nice. I like them a lot. But again, they're all less assassin and more superhuman abilities that are similar to assassinating and warrioring and hunting and whatnot. I think those are fine, but it's just like, again, it's just less assassin-based stuff and more like superhuman stuff, I guess. Well, I mean, at first, like, it felt human because the abilities like Sparta Kick or poison stuff is like, that's generic stuff that is like normal to me, like human-y. But then you got like Bull Rush, which is not even human, and like, or it doesn't feel like it's human, I guess, the way it looks. And then you got the other stuff that might be like at the very top. Conceal yourself in the middle of the road, just don't move, and the guards will lose you, kind of thing. It's like, okay, I guess. But I think that felt weird to just have those superhuman feeling of an ability, stuff like that. But whatever, I guess. But then the biggest system I have a gripe with is the crafting systems. I hate it. I hate the crafting. It's like, I get it. It's to push the idea that the player needs resources and they need microtransaction in a way that helps fulfill the need to just fulfill your upgrade system stuff. But by God, it was atrocious. Like, I had to calculate how much I had to think about for those things. I didn't keep track of everything, but I can inherently know that it takes about... I can inherently feel that all the armor pieces, all the weapon stuff that you need to upgrade, like the one that you stick with throughout the whole game, it takes about 100,000 wood, 100,000 leather. If the armor is like... Yeah, and then maybe 100,000 metal. But the armor or the weapon will take probably a lot more wood and leather. And then, like, basically at that point, the leather would be your choke point. I kid you not. It's either the metal or the leather is going to become your choke point for crafting your weapon. Like, if you choose your weapon to be a sword, I think it's metal and wood, then your metal will be your choke point, or your wood's going to be your choke point. If you chose like a spear like I did, it would be stick and leather, and so the leather became my choke point because the leather was overused in the armor set. And in the case of the sword, it might be overused by the armor. I think the metal would be the one that overused and becomes your choke point. I feel like that might be the case, not the wood, but I feel like I felt like there was just too much gravitating in 3 items, and I think that they choke point those systems to force you as a player to either grind for those gear items or the components and ingredients, or they're trying to make you buy something to just power that amount up to whatever. And I think it's the most egregious and atrocious thing to deal with, and I hate it. But it's there for a reason. It's to make you stay in the game longer. Again, the benefit of that. But the biggest bad part is just that it makes you feel less powerful, and it makes you want to, like, struggle a lot just for nothing. Like, ultimately, me as a player, I want to finish this game for the story's sake. This game doesn't work well with somebody like me. I like to finish my game's story's sake. I want to have it where I'm, like, weak and I'm, like, superhuman, like, strong. Like, the best game to give that example is, for me, personally, is the whole set of Ryu ga Gotoku game, Yakuza game. their game system built, like, you start off weak and it's justifiable, and they're like, hey, you're weak as hell, you spent 12 years 10 years in prison, guess what, you come back, you're super weak and stupid. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it, give it to me. Give me some enemies, I'll train myself up. And I do just that. I train myself all the way to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I can just like parry you, I can just beat the hell out of you, I can just take you downtown and not worry too much about it. I am almost like a Superman style kind of thing. It's like, I want that feeling. I think most games should be that feeling. It's that you progress to a point where you feel so like powerful, because nobody in the world powers up with you. In this game, they shouldn't power up with you. Their levels should remain at a certain degree. Even if it makes it boring, it makes it sense, because Origins did it well, where they kept the spaces less, like, they tried not to upgrade the levels of the enemy types on you to make it overwhelming, and that's a good thing. I don't care because they're not boring, because I'm not going to revisit those places unless I'm trying to pick up, like, specific items that I might have missed in the past, but I'm not doing that in Odyssey. I'm doing that a lot of the times with Origins, because it's very, like, feeling of a little bit of a linearness to it. Here it's like it's a circle kind of thing where we're just looking around and flying back and forth in a lot of places, but the problem is that they're all over the place. All the enemy types of being higher than you or near your levels are all over the place, and the mercenaries aren't helping either, because they're just gonna randomly add to the difficulty so like really egregiously. So I think that if anything, this game needs to learn how to balance it properly, not by adjusting the stupid enemy levels, but instead trying to make sure the levels are like capped at a reasonable rate, and then move on. Like, change the other enemies. Don't try to do it all over the place. I think it's easy because it's like it takes all enemies and says, hey, all their levels are 2 levels behind the player. Like, that's the easiest crap they can do. Instead of just sectioning off a certain amount of regional like enemies to be a certain level. Instead of that, they got rid of the whole thing and just said everybody has the same level as each other, excluding the mercenary and the occultists. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Why is this such a lazy like thing to do? It's like, I don't know. I just felt that was the worst. Like, the leveling system also is the worst, I would say, with this game as well. Like, it takes so much XP to just level up. Like, 2 million, I think it was the amount that you need to get to the next level. I'm already at level 80 something, and I'm like, to be fair, I played a lot of side quests, I played a lot of main quests, but if somebody didn't play any of the side quests and they just went straight through the main quest, good luck, because you might be struggling all day and trying to be better at the game skillfully, versus having to feel less like you have enough power to deal with something super like OP almost. Like, if there was like a Minotaur again, it would be in 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half of a fight. If you were like, let's say the Minotaur is like level 30 and you're like level 20 or 25, it's manageable, but you need to really play it really skillfully. But not all players are going to be like that skillful at the game. Instead, they would just take their time doing other things and then lose interest and not play anymore. Like, that's the problem with it. It's just it's trying to let less of the level system like be helpful to the player and just become more annoying to the player's like ability to fight better in a certain way. And I just think that it's just not really great to just have that. Worst of all is the upgrade system, where there's the additional upgrades, where there's like the whole list of count. It's like, my god, dude. Like, what was it? If I want to upgrade my ability to assassinate a certain ability more and have better stats, like critical chance can only go up to the max of 5% plus to your critical hit chance. But you had to spend 20 ability points to get that. And you know how expensive the ability points are? They're expensive in time and potentially resources. I wouldn't say money though. I don't know if there's a leveling money thing. I haven't really spent any money on any of the microtransaction bullcrap that they have, but I do know that it's expensive because it takes so much time from a player to sacrifice 1 point. I mean, I'm thankful that Fate of Atlantis DLC gives you a lot of ability points for free almost, in a sense. Like, your effort is just pick up a thing, discover a thing, clear out a thing, and it's not even big. They're just like, they give you reasonable amounts of EXP in that DLC that it makes the game a little bit more forgiving. And I think Fate of Atlantis tries to make up for it, but then the content update that comes after this, like the content update I just played, literally just slaps you in the face and says, hey, well, that thing, we were too nice. We're just going to give you this one last thing. Get rid of the hell out of your ability points. Get rid of all your abilities, except for the base minimum of the stuff that you usually run with. It's like, dear God, dude, seriously, this is the crappiest feeling I've ever felt as a player. Just this being, I mean, I understand, again, like, there's a challenge, but then there's, like, this feeling of, like, they're just trying to, work their best to hurt the player than to make the player feel like they're experiencing something magical or something really cool, something fun, something really, like, something for the player to kind of feel that way. I mean, some people might feel differently, and I'm totally fine with that. And people might think differently than what I'm thinking. But for me, I just felt like as a designer, I would be very scared of this kind of thing, where there's just so much number crunching that the number becomes really egregious, and then Ubisoft's like, oh, we found some really good thing. We found a good considerable size of amount that the player resources cannot get. Okay, let's monetize that. And that's what they probably went for. I honestly think that's what they went for at that degree of, like, once they got to the end of the game, they're like, okay, we can just monetize that whole rest of the place. And then just, like, let the rest be whatever it is. But again, Fate of Atlantis is very generous with the whole system and made the system a little bit more interesting to me. But everything else just bare bones, and, like, the beginning parts of Assassin's Creed Odyssey were nice. It's just the middle to the end of the main game and First Plate DLC and the extra content all just feels kind of like a disadvantage for me as a player when it comes to just kind of getting through the system and just having to, like, do my own things, I guess I would say. So, I don't know. It just really sucks a lot. Last of all, I want to point out is, I think in the middle of the game, in the middle of my playthrough of this game, I called out the fact that the game's scenery kind of got me bored. Like, I also want to address that, because I actually said it at one point, where I'm like, the scenery is becoming more of the same. But I think that's because there's, like, excuse me. It's just that I felt that when I got to a certain point in the game, in the main game, I felt like I was revisiting some of the same areas, and it just felt kind of same-ish. Like, it was mountains, a lot of mountains, grass, and trees, and mountains. Rocks, mountains, grass. And I think I like it where it's like it breaks off at a certain point in the terrain and scenery. But the problem was that it was starting to become too repetitive in my head, because I keep seeing it and I keep thinking that it's the same thing, that I realized that the whole scenery became kind of same-ish. But I mean, it's trying to play realistically. I mean, realistically, in, like, a much more nature-based world, we have a lot of greenery and that's it. Like, and rocks, and that's it. Like, that's fair. But for me, I felt like it doesn't break off because there's no, like, buildings in place in the middle of the rocks or in the mountains or something like that. There's no, like, cave systems that's enough to kind of fulfill that sort of, like, break off of, like, a semi-flat plane that's literally just curved differently. It's just, like, it doesn't really change much to me if it's, like, just emptiness. And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed, is that there are some points they sacrifice to have it be empty, just for the sake of the terrain to be just a thing. And I think that there could have been more benefits to have a little bit more incentive to visit some places for the sake of doing something rather than doing nothing and just walking and riding a horse. But I think that that's probably one of the biggest things that I dealt with or felt that was a problem with the terrain and levels and stuff like that in the world of the main game, that is. I think the Fate of Atlantis, I already said what I said. Like, one of the scenery is the worst. One of them kind of felt kind of like, eh. And then the first one, which is the Elysium, was the best out of the three worlds you go through in Fate of Atlantis. And then, excuse me. The First Blade, of course, it all reuses the same main game stuff, and I'm just like, why reuse the same thing? I don't need to go through the same world. But it did explore some places that we don't often go through, and that was fair. I actually think that was fair. because they didn't really utilize some certain like regions a lot, so then they try to use it a lot more for that purpose of the story. So I was like, okay, I was a little forgiving for that part when it came to that particular place of the game at the very least. Yeah, so I think that's mostly what I have to say for the most part. It's a very lengthy talk, unfortunately, because I saved it all up till this point. Saved all my opinion and thoughts up to this point. I'm trying to think what else there is to say that is like important before I go away from this game entirely. Was the DLC worth it? I think that the Fate of Atlantis was the only DLC that was really worth it. I think the First Blade is nice to connect the story, but I think that's the only thing I disliked. Like everything else I disliked because it's like there's an additional cultist list which was like very bare bones. There was a lot of cool stories moments that was important to Cassandra's storyline, and that was nice, and I like that. But the problem was just that it just didn't have much to offer besides like story, and I think that it was cool that it took the same places, but I think they could have tried to go for a new region like they did with Fate of Atlantis. Even Origins did. I think most of Origins DLCs were all the expansions took you to a different region that didn't exist in the main game, and I really liked that and I appreciated that. But apparently, this game didn't want to do that for the First Blade because they didn't have enough time to kind of play it out. I think in that capacity, so that probably might have ended up being the case there. Yeah, so DLC, I definitely think Fate of Atlantis is more worth it. Even though there are some bare bone worlds or levels in the last two worlds, but I think the story there is much more interesting, and it relates to the overall like universe of Assassin's Creed than the First Blade, I would say, and it provides you new abilities too if you're willing to go out of the way and like unlock them, and you get new weapons and stuff like that. Some really cool stuff that I think that are really interesting to the game itself with the story and the mechanics of whatever's in there. And you get to meet Greek gods and Greek enemies, which was really cool. So I really think that. And then you get to revisit some of the main game characters, which is also really cool. So I think Fate of Atlantis really did a lot that really made it interesting to me than it is with First Blade for sure, because the First Blade was just a new story overall. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it for what I think about the DLCs as well. Yeah. I need to clear my nose first. Again, I hate it. I hate myself for this. So I'm going to. I don't want to pause the credits. I want the credits to roll. What I'll do is. No, you know what? I'll pause it and I'll just like kind of close it out as I like. I'll speed it up, I guess, a little bit if I have to, because they have a lot of developing studio stuff. That's why this game is big, and I think that's why there's a lot of people involved. So that's why the game is so big, that there's just too many moving parts that it's hard to see everything kind of come together properly to have a coherent vision overall. But I think that's probably what it is. My guess. I'm not saying everybody here in this credits list are bad people or anything. Like they're working and they're doing a job. It's just that it's just hard to move a direction with a lot of people in this company, involved in the project, I guess. Anyways, I'll pause right now. Let me clear my nose, and I'll be right back. Oh, jeez. Is it moving back? Oh, it is rewinding backwards. Why? It's moving back down. Why is it moving back down? It looks like it's moving back down. My eyes is just playing tricks with me because I keep seeing it going up. Yeah, my eyes are just playing with me. Okay, anyways, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second to clear my nose, and then I'll be back to talk about more things. Definitely got some new things, or not new things, some more things to talk about, and then we should be it for the series. Anyways, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's get through this credits then. Alright, so what are my final thoughts with this game entirely? Assassin's Creed Odyssey Ultimate Edition. My thought is, it's a really big experience. and it's very overwhelming. But it has a lot of problems that makes the game less fun after a certain degree, after a certain point. If you're doing all the side quests, which I recommend you don't, just do a few of them, and that helps you with your level a little bit, like just to progress the level a little bit. Maybe pick up a bunch of contracts and just do them randomly. But otherwise, I think that if you are planning on trying to get through this game as much as I did, it's kind of you're gonna give up. You might give up like halfway through the main game. Seriously, I hate it that I went through a lot of it, but I think that it's a worthwhile experience based on a few things here and there. For me, I learned a lot as a developer. Like, for me as a developer, playing this game makes me help a lot. Like, it helps me figure out the crux of the open world stuff, the stuff that don't work well anymore, and that just keeps being played out the same way. Because I've already played Origins. I played Witcher 3. I've played other open world based games, or games that try to emulate an open world game. I think Rise of the Tomb Raider could be counted. Far Cry 3 would be counted. Rage would be another one that I played that is open world-ish. Like, I've played a fair share of open world games. I even played some open world games outside of this channel during my free time. And, like, I know the formula pretty well. Like, I've come to that understanding that there are a lot of sacrifices to make sure that it's a worthwhile experience. But sometimes you will have a lot of, like, places that you grown weak after time. Like, especially with an RPG or an RPG system in place, like, things get worse over time if you don't pay attention to them. And having so much to really work with is really overwhelming and very daunting. And I think that this game could have taken a lot of time to make. I think this game took maybe like 3 years, maybe 4 years to make. And I think that's what's worrisome, is that they spent so little time for this whole, like, the whole, like, main game to get done, and then they spent another additional few years to work out the DLC and extra content stuff. And that's what I'm worried about, is that you're making so much over so little time, but not trying to clear out the fact that there's nothing special sometimes that comes out of some of the parts that they make, because they weren't giving enough time, or they're not giving enough time to make it special to whatever. And sometimes people leave during those time of project making that they might have lost original visions of certain things. But they have new people who probably come in and bring in some new cool ideas, and then they make some new things, and it goes into the game, but then it doesn't take into account how it might not fit to the overall world based on wherever you are in the player's world. Sometimes. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it's just like there's so much layering to this whole game itself being made that I felt that this game overall felt really hard to kind of navigate through, to kind of give it a coherent vision in my mind, to actually feel that this game knew where it wanted to go and where it wanted to end. But otherwise, I think, yeah, this game is worth it if you are actually not having much to do. Like, you don't have much to do. You have an open world itch that you want to scratch, and you're willing to take a lot of time to go through everything for about, let's say, 200 hours, because I've seen people who spend 200 hours playing a lot of the side quests, playing a lot of the looking around, playing the DLCs, playing the extra content. Like, that's totally fine if you have the time, and you're free to do whatever you like to do. So open world scratch itch, a lot of free time. If you're looking for another RPG to just kind of sink hours in because you're just bored, you want mindless fun, this is technically it. And if you want to kind of like just play a female protagonist, this works out for you as well. If you want a strong female protagonist is what I would say. Because Cassandra is pretty strong as a female protagonist throughout this game, and I really like the voice actress for this, and the way they did the whole like stuff there. I don't know how Deimos or Alexios would have felt, but I think that it would have been a little bit weaker, not because of the actor, but because the writing is probably not interesting overall. I feel like, because they do change a little bit of the writing based on which character you get to play as, I think. So, and originally they did wanted to use Cassandra as the only character you play as, and that the main story, the canon story, does say that Cassandra is the one who is the one that kind of pushes out the kid to go into Egypt and stuff like that. Like, she kind of does have that whole story moment with the First Blade, Legacy of the First Blade, which makes a lot more sense to me as a player than having Alexos, which I don't think the romance is the case or the problem. It's just the kid having to exist based on the relationship of the two. So that's what I think is the problem there. Unless they make the guy in the First Blade of Legacy a female, then I would have been like, oh, okay, I guess. But the point of the First Blade of Legacy needs to have the kid come out to turn into, to give a generation to Origins somehow. So that's one of those pressure points that I feel like could have been the case for First Blade. Trying to think. I think that's pretty much it in terms of what I think. It's just, I'd recommend it if you are open world hungry, have a lot of time on your hand, mindless fun you want, this is definitely it. RPG, another RPG that you just want to sink hours in mindlessly. Female protagonist, if you want a female protagonist, this is it. If you are very, like, interested in that kind of storytelling, this is definitely for you, I think. If you're just wanting to play the next Assassin's Creed, I would not recommend that. If you're looking to find another Assassin's Creed to play, and you've played, let's say you've played Assassin's Creed 1 all the way down to Origins, like straight, like you play all of them straight through, I would not recommend this. If you are, like, willing to go into this, I would say you would probably give up halfway. So it depends, actually. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, I'll guarantee that maybe halfway through you'll give up, and you'll say you'll return to it, and then 2 years down the line, you'll probably say, like, I will want to return to it, but I don't have the time. So it's probably going to end up being that case, and I think that that's what goes down, ultimately. But otherwise, if you have, like, a lot of time, you're just binging through all the Assassin's Creed game or something, this definitely was whatever is you want to play, then I would say that, like, if you want to focus on the main game, do it. Main story stuff, do it. But if you're doing side quest and main game, like, you want to do all of it, I would say just try to slow it down a little bit, because you're going to get tired really fast and you'll kind of give up or burn out from the game, and that can happen. I can see people burning out in this game a lot, especially with the fact that the DLC is really good, that it's all the way at the end of the road, that you have to finish all this sort of content before you get to that point. It makes it really tough for somebody who's, like, just playing it like normal, I think, to just enjoy it like a normal human freaking being. Jeez. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much what I would say for the Assassin's Creed fan, is, like, this is not a recommend for them, but if you just want to play the main game and story, definitely do it then, but try your best to, like, or be aware that you might burn out halfway, or you might give up halfway somewhere in time, because most of the time people who don't like long games will come into this and think that, oh, it's great and fun, but it just sinks your time in and, like, crazy, and, like, you're just like, ugh. But yeah, otherwise that's pretty much one of the biggest case. If you're on a budget of time or money, this game is not worth it for those, because if the game has a lot of DLC, and I think a lot of the DLCs is not, like, it's not worthwhile, I'd say, because it's $120 for Ultimate Edition, and it's like, it goes on sale to be decent about it, but it's like, you might have other games you have to worry about and want to play, and, like, that might take you more time as well, and I think that's fair. Like, everyone has other games they want to play too, but it's like, this one will take the most time and hurt you the most if you're wasting nothing. Like, you're just paying it out and not playing it at all, and just, like, it sits there forever almost. But I mean, if you really want to do it, that's totally fine, I guess. Like, if people want to buy it, they'll do it. I'm not going to control how you want to get your games, or what you want to get when you want to get your games or something. But I would suggest that, like, if you don't have a lot of time, definitely just, this game isn't for you for sure. If you are not a fan of shallow, like, storytelling, then I'd say that this game might not be for you either. Like, if you really like some deep story, like, let's say, like, as deep as Disco Elysium, or something as deep as Yakuza would be, or deep, like, as in, like, Persona or something like that, like, something very story heavy that's interesting, that pulls your, like, Undertale maybe, like, this is not it. This is definitely not it. This is definitely just something that you would just kind of tell your kids like a story, a bedtime story, and this is it. The killing, no, he's dead. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's what it is. It's like, no, yeah, you wouldn't tell this to your kids for a bedtime story. excuse that thought. But it's like, what I'm trying to say is, like, this is kind of the shallow story that's just, like, that you can just kind of bring up the scenario and people will understand what's going to happen anyways. Like, predictable endings, predictable things, but ultimately isn't actually interesting and would not be recommended for sure for that reason in that capacity. But otherwise, I think, yeah, like, it would not be recommended. I would not recommend it to those kind of people who are just not enjoying shallow storylines that really doesn't work out for them. I mean, there's choices in the story, but they're just still too shallow and too very, like, they're there, but they're not really helping really to the story. It's just, choices in the game is just not that interesting in general. It didn't really break. Sometimes they even go back to revert to the same choices, like they both equal the same choices, they're just told differently in a sense, and that could happen too in this game throughout, where like if you say yes or no and then the answer is both, then it's like, what's even the point of giving choices though? So that's one of those biggest problems that this game could face every now and then as well. Okay, let's see if we, I don't know if we have the ability still, but this is the Tower of Alexandria. Assassin's Creed Origins. Yeah, I can see it. Is this Cassandra? It is. So is she related to Odyssey Origins, I guess? Somehow? Yep, it's Cassandra. Oh, she put the scroll into that space.
Everyone will read your words, Herodotus.
In Egypt, yeah. I see. Interesting. But then what was that story going to be? Cassandra's story continues in Valhalla. I know that. Game, I don't think I wouldn't know that. And then there's a preview to Valhalla, I get it. You know, I sometimes feel like the credits had to go through here just to make it encouraging to the player to do a thing, to go buy the game. Sorry, I don't feel that way, I guess. Not right now. I don't feel encouraged to go for that now. Okay, you didn't need to do this. Get out of here. That's so unfair. Don't do that advertisement in front of my face like that. That's so not cool. That was like forced advertisement to just get me to just buy the game. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm not in the mood right now for it. Alright, well, let me see what happens here, and then we'll continue the last part here. Yeah, I'm gonna finish up the not recommended, and I'll re-summarize the recommended and not recommended for you guys, just in case that, because I think there's a lot of explanation to some of these things in my brain that I might to rewind myself a little bit to get to the point where I know that I said what I said, so I can for sure say that. Oh yeah, also speaking, not recommended to those who miss the Assassin's Creed formula for sure. I mean, if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you missed the formula of the old Assassin's Creed, this is definitely not that game either, for sure. Like, for those people who are interested in that kind of thing. Do I get my abilities back for once? Okay, so we got Origins. What is this? Resort shoulder pad? What the hell is Origins looking like? Oh, it's the thing that we saw her dressed up as for the for that one little ending credit scene. Yeah. That makes sense. Getting warmer. Oh yeah, that's the thing that one thing is. Oh my god, my abilities are back. It's been so long since I actually got through my ability stuff. I wanted to just power it up on the, yeah, some of these things, I guess. Maybe I'll just do the crit and full health. Might as well. I mean, I'm not returning to this game anytime soon anyway, so it doesn't really matter. See, look at all these ship upgrades. There's no use to them. I don't even get to use them ever again after, literally after the main game was over. Once the first Blade of Legacy was over, like, this was it. Like, we never got to use any of these resources ever again. So it kind of felt a little bit sad for the most part. That's a dead dog. Oops. Yikes. The hell happened here? The city looks like crap. What happened? Okay, I guess. Alright, well, let me
Share to you.
sell that. Sell the trade goods. Upgrade, I guess. If I... Oh, wait, no, actually, I need to buy the obsidian to upgrade. Oh, no obsidian. Okay, screw it. Well, I'm gonna end it... I'm gonna end it without having to upgrade my gear that I wanted to upgrade. Okay, whatever. Alright, so let's close this out, I guess, for once and for all. I'm saving it because this will be the last save that I'll make for this game. Alright, cool. Finally, I want to say that, yes, it's recommended for those who want something brainless fun, who is willing to sink time into something random, like open world randomness stuff, or sandboxy game. This is definitely for you. If you are interested in a strong female protagonist, this is definitely it. If you're looking for some really just brainless fun for an RPG game, this is definitely that for you too as well. And yeah, if you have a lot of time, definitely recommend this game to those who are just like willing to spend many hours in a game like this. But I would not recommend it to a typical Assassin's Creed fan who misses the old Assassin's Creed formula. Definitely, if you don't like the whole like RPG system that just doesn't work out, this is definitely not it. If you don't want tie-ins to the old if there's not enough tie-ins to the Assassin's Creed game, this might not be it either. I'm not a fan either for the fact that the modern day stuff gets skimped out as well, just so that they can tell more of the historical story, I guess. But I guess it makes sense because your buying point is the historical part, but it just misses the bullet for having to tell enough about the modern day stuff to carry the story forward. I would not recommend it if you don't have a lot of time. If you don't have a lot of, if you have some money to spare and you don't want to, like, you're being a little bit more picky about what you want to buy because you don't have enough money. This is definitely not one of those games on the list, unless, again, one of the positives is that you have a lot of time. But if you don't have a lot of time, obviously this is not worth the pick for you if you're not into that. If you're not interested in a shallow storyline, a bunch of shallow stuff, then definitely not for you. If you're interested into deep narrative stuff, this is not going to be it for sure. Brainless stuff. If you hate grinding in the game, this is definitely not a game for you either. Because if you don't want to spend the time grinding for materials and stuff like that, this game is not going to be worth it for you. Especially if you want to spend more money on it, that's not grinding. That's just literally just, I want to shell out the money to get the things done, which sometimes I think doesn't even help you either, I think, because it's just not worth it. And, of course, the last thing I want to say for not recommendations is, like, if it feels kind of like a carbon copy of something, this is definitely not it either for you. If you feel like it's a carbon copy of Witcher 3, like you played all the Witcher 3, you love the hell out of it, and you could jump into this, you look at this game from the outside, looking in, I would say no. Like, don't think that this is going to be the next Witcher 3. It just has the elements of it, but it's just not it. Like, it's, again, that's part of the not recommended shallow storyline stuff. It's not it. It's similar, but it's not it, unfortunately. But it also ties in very heavily to historical stuff, so if you're not interested in Greece, I think that's also making it harder for you a little bit. If you're just not interested in Greek history or Greek mythology, stuff like that, this definitely would be harder for you to get into and vibe with, if that is not your cup of tea for terms of, like, historical game stuff, or historical world stuff. Because there are some people who are just not interested in general about that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I would say those are my reasons for recommending and not recommending it. But ultimately, I'd say it depends. Like, for me as a game developer, I always say try the game yourself and then see how you feel. You can kind of rely on my words as, like, a stepping stone, but don't rely on it 100% on how you feel. Because sometimes you might feel different than I do or think differently when you go through the game. I think a certain way. you as the viewer can think differently. But I recommend those if it's a big game and a big ask. It's hard to really recommend it because it's like I could be easily giving it like a hard like no, but it's like I'm not giving it a hard no. I'm giving it a hard yes and a hard no at the same time, trying to give it a better general sense of what you would want to do to purchase this game. But this is really just like if you have time. That comes down to the point of this game. Is do you have the time to willingly dish out to play this game? That's the biggest question you'll have to ask when you jump into this game or before you buy this game. And that's the only biggest thing I'll always keep saying in this game. Are you willing to sacrifice that much time to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey? I definitely would recommend Origins, which is advertising it there, but Odyssey is 2 times the length of Origins. So that's what I'm trying to say. Do you have the time, and are you willing to dish it out? That's all I could say for sure. Otherwise, that's it for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I am done with this game for once. Went through almost all the stuff that I wanted to go through. Side quests, main quests, DLC side quests, collectibles, upgrade stuff, everything that I could to do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't clear out the mercenaries, that's totally fine, I don't really care for it. And I didn't clear out all the hidden places and all the side quests that I have on the list, but it's enough to guarantee that I'm done with this game because I wanted to just carry myself on to that point and be done with it. If I missed anything in terms of side quests, so be it. That's for you to explore if you ever choose to play this game yourself, or you already own the game and you're currently playing it. Definitely look for them. There probably might be wiki guides for those. I feel like I do miss a few side quests, but that's whatever because it's like you have to discover a point or something in the areas, but it's like whatever. Yeah, I definitely think that's pretty much it for this Odyssey series for sure. If you guys enjoyed the series, feel free to check out the channel for more Assassin's Creed games. I've played more Assassin's Creed games already. I revisited Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and Brotherhood. Revisited as in I finished the game before I started this channel. And I revisited them. And I'm going to probably revisit Revelations, not very soon here, but like a little bit down the line, like not far from now. I'll probably be jumping into Revelations to finish that Ezio trilogy because the channel hasn't finished the Ezio trilogy yet. So I'll be going through that at the very least. But I did finish Brotherhood with the DLC, the Leonardo da Vinci disappearance thing. So you can definitely check that out with that series as well. So I'll probably put that as the recommend. Actually, no, I'll recommend the Origins series at the end of this video with the annotation stuff. So if you want to check the Origins out, I have finished Origins. I have finished Syndicate, which I finished Syndicate on the Xbox One, so it's a little bit, its quality is a little bit and same goes for Rogue, which was my very first Assassin's Creed series, and I played it for the first time. Same for Syndicate, I played it for the first time on the channel. Both had their own sort of like Xbox 360, Xbox One kind of playthrough, but they were not the greatest qualities, so excuse their quality a little bit. But they're still they're still watchable and stuff like that, so that's pretty much what the case is for those two games entirely. But yeah, what's next? Of course, Assassin's Creed Revelation. I'm gonna not play Valhalla until I get through probably Revelation, Assassin's Creed 3 with Liberation, and Assassin's Creed 4, the DLC from Assassin's Creed 4, I forgot what it's called, Assassin's Creed Unity. Like, I need to finish those guys first before I jump into playing Valhalla, and I think that those will take me a lot of time anyways, because they're ones that generally were really cool and interesting at the time, and I think 4 is still the best overall in the entire series, and I definitely will be revisiting it, because I already finished it a long time ago, on the channel, hopefully, and see where that goes and takes me. So, that's pretty much the itinerary, the sort of list of things I'm going to be thinking about. But otherwise, I might do other games in the meantime, just to fulfill my time a little bit, to just prep myself up for Revelations, but we'll see. What else is there? Yeah, if you guys want to purchase this game yourself, I'm going to place the Ultimate Edition down in the description if you're really interested in the $120 price tag of it. I mean, essentially, this is the last episode, which includes all the DLC and all the extra content and all the main game stuff. So, I mean, I'd rather place the Ultimate Edition here in this video. I might place a separate set of links for their base game, but I don't know. Maybe I might do the base game first and then put the Ultimate Edition afterwards, I guess, for all the platforms and links to those platforms for sure. So if you really want to purchase the base game only, feel free to look at the first set of links, and then the Ultimate Edition will be right after that. So I'll try my best to get all the links anyways to separate things, and let you guys decide on your own how much worth you want to pick it up on for this game. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like, I think this video comes out 2-3 weeks after I record this, so keep in mind the summer sale of this game might be available at the time, or might not be available at the time anymore, because I don't know when this video really truly goes up. I think, like, if I calculated it, I would think like it's 2-3 weeks of upload times afterwards. So I think it's like in the middle of July, I think, is when you'll see this video. So apologies if you missed it, and if you are from the far future, like you're like a year ahead of me or 2 years ahead of me or something like that, I don't know how it's gonna look in terms of sales, so you can check it out for sure if you do find this at a random time, I guess. Or even if you're watching up to this point of the video, yeah, this video is super long, but the point is whatever it is. Yeah, just the sale is whenever you see it, I guess. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching Assassin's Creed Odyssey Ultimate Edition with me, or joining me along this journey. I know some people are big fans of Assassin's Creed, and I know some people who didn't want to play this game or buy this game, and so they reverted to just watching somebody play the whole entire game. That's totally fair. If anything happens to encourage you to play this game or buy this game, I would definitely say just try it out for yourself and just see how you feel about it. I think this game is definitely, again, just like, you would have to try to know if you want to feel like playing something long or not. But otherwise, if you don't feel like playing anything super long, then this is not it for you, for sure. But otherwise, I think this game is good, but not the best. And it still can't take the title of what Assassin's Creed 4 did for a lot of Assassin's Creed fans, is that if you play Assassin's Creed 4, you'll never go back. You'll never feel the same after getting out of that game. Like, I feel like that's the case. It's like, I've always felt like Assassin's Creed 4 has dug its claw into me, and it stayed there forever for being the best Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 2 is like right below it in terms of like what it did for me as an Assassin's Creed fan. 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations all together kind of was like the secondary parts of what I felt was the best of Assassin's Creed. And then like all the nitty-gritty of all the older Assassin's Creed game, like it's really interesting. Like, some parts of it were really interesting, and the systems were interesting, story were interesting, and stuff like that. So I really felt that I missed the good old days of Assassin's Creed, of course, but that's the point of that, I guess. Anyways, the point is, I'm rambling on, and I gotta close this video for once. And so this is the end of the series. If you guys have not checked out my other Assassin's Creed series, I recommend you do it. I've also played the Chronicles game, so if you also haven't seen the Assassin's Creed Chronicles games, check them out. Again, finished Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Rogue, Syndicate, and Origins already on the channel. All DLCs and all side quests that I try to play all through of it. They're on the channel. Check them out if you want to. I'll recommend Origins at the end of this video, so that will be your next point of visiting if you missed that playthrough. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for the series, and I will deeply miss playing this game for a long time because I played through it so much, but I'm glad that it's finally over. So other than that, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you guys in another game or another series of mine. Hope you guys have a great, amazing day, week, and night, or whenever watching this, and that will be it for this series. Oh, you will be missed. You'll be missed, AC Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You'll be deeply missed. Other than that, Roz out.